Hi, Samantha here. Thanks so much for waiting for this episode. I'm sorry it's a little bit on the shorter side. I had a massive hard drive failure last week and had to end up replacing my entire computer, which means I lost a lot of assets and unfortunately, we lost an episode. But we do have this very last episode of the March of the Mecha, and this time it's James and Nate chatting about the second Evangelion movie. So I hope very much that you enjoy that, and thanks so much for being patient with me while I recover from my computer catastrophe. We'll be back next week. Bye-bye.
Hello and welcome back to Rocket Punch Radio's March of the Mecha 2017. My name is James and I need to get in the damn robot. This is Nate and he smells like LCL.
Yeah, I do.
Nate, are you ready to talk about the second Evangelion movie 2.22?
I sure am. I mean, I just took like 6 shots, so I should be good to go.
I'm
just kidding.
Did you have to drink for your second contractual anime of the year?
I did not, no. I just took one, though. But, anyways, so I actually like this one a lot more than the first one. So, to give some background real quick, last year on Rocket Punch Radio's first March of the Mecha, the crew sat me down, conspiracy theory style, tied me to a chair, taped my eyes open, and made me watch, the first Evangelion movie.
You loved it.
I guess it's also Clockwork Orange style if you go back further than the Mel Gibson movie. I was pleasantly surprised, let's just say.
We're planning more anime hijinks for you in the future.
Yeah, so anyway, I watched the second Evangelion movie a couple of days ago, and I actually liked it a lot more. I thought Shinji is still an annoying-ass piece of shit.
Well, like you do. But,
yeah.
So, fair warning, as always, there's going to be spoilers involved in any of our spoiler casts. This will be for the Evangelion series in general, but specifically for Evangelion number 2, you cannot advance. You cannot listen to this podcast without being spoiled.
Very true. So I thought it started out with a... just like the first one, really. And, it starts out with action. Like, there's an angel showing up, and the angels are weird and ridiculous, and...
Yeah, this was a crazy one.
Yeah, so this one starts with Ava Suit 05 getting detonated and to take out an angel. And the pilot of it, parachutes away, and I guess she's on, her own secret mission or something. That was a little confusing.
Yeah, she's doing her own thing. We don't really know what she's all about yet. Mari is she is a new character for this series of movies.
Oh, okay.
She didn't exist in the original anime.
I did not realize there was that much new stuff in the movies.
Oh yeah, actually you have seen the extent of, basically, starting with this movie, the plot starts to go in a completely different direction. And it diverges pretty much immediately.
Okay, so I was not aware of that.
Yep.
So I still have issues, if people listen to last year's episode, they may remember I had issues with the whole, basically the whole concept of, hey, they're using kids to fight in these giant mechs, and also the kids are, going to school, right? And, they're not, living on base or anything. They're just going to school in New Tokyo 3.
Yep.
And when there's an attack, they get called up and they have to go fight, but then the next day they're just back to school. That whole thing is just really, really weird.
I suppose it's military culture as seen through the eyes of a country that's not allowed to have its own military.
Yeah, that's true, and we did discuss some of that, last time. But I just remember watching it again and being like, oh, here's this school drama, and he's hanging out with his school friends and stuff, and so weird. So anyways, let's talk about who I think my favorite character is. She gets introduced in fighting I have to look it up now.
Oh no.
She's the second child and the pilot of Unit 02.
No. Oh no, you like Asuka?
And I can't see I don't know which angel she kills. She's definitely the most like interesting character. So she's a total bitch. So
yes,
her character gets introduced. There's a new angel coming. Her Ava gets like basically airdropped in with a giant gun that she catches in midair and like shoots at this angel, and then the angel puts up its magical, force field thing, and then she like, as they do in these movies, she punches through it, or I think she actually kicks through it in this one. And she kicks through it and destroys the heart of the angel in like, I think the whole fight is less than 30 seconds.
Yep. Yeah, they have I believe it's a 30-second time window before the batteries on the Avas run out when they're not plugged in.
It's 5 minutes.
It's 5 minutes? Okay.
Yeah. But the battery things on the Avas don't make any sense too, because it's like, it's 5 minutes no matter what, it seems like. Like, no matter how hard they're fighting, like, it doesn't seem to drain the battery more. But
I guess.
I'm not necessarily a big fan of the rules of this universe, so to speak. But the rules of the universe, they make it. That's why it makes some of the fights more tense than others and stuff. So Asuka. Asuka. Okay, it's Asuka.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the U is usually silent, or it's not quite silent, but it's almost like a barely audible pause between the two.
Asuka. Okay, yeah, that's how they were saying it. Okay, that makes sense. So anyway, like Shinji sees this and is like, wow, she's kind of tough, and she basically, as soon as she lands, she starts talking shit to Shinji and Rei.
Yep, she's the worst.
And is like,
I can't believe you like her.
Well, okay, I think she was like kind of funny, but like she like grew on me and stuff. She's, a new character for this movie, right?
No, she's actually one from the series.
Well, I mean, she's introduced in this movie.
Yeah, she's introduced for the first time in the movie series in this movie.
Yeah, so I liked her introduction. I thought she was a badass. However, she is a total bitch.
Oh, completely and absolutely. But she also knows her skills.
Yeah, but she says some like funny stuff, and that like I can kind of relate to, because she's like, she's not Japanese, or at least she did not grow up in Japan.
She's part German.
Yeah, so she works for the European government. So, she talks about how strange Japanese culture is. And she's like, why are you always apologizing? You didn't do anything wrong. Or it's so easy to embarrass you, and stuff like that. And I was just amused by that, because it's like, hey, these are my problems. Like, these are some of the reasons why I don't care for anime that much.
Yeah, she was. You would be interested to know, in New Type magazine, March 2010, Asuka was voted as the third most popular female anime character from the 1990s. Okay.
And, her whole character arc, just like Shinji's arc, is, I don't want to fight, but I'm going to fight. I don't want to fight, but I'm going to fight. Asuka has an arc, too, and it's basically, I can do this on my own. But no, she can't do it on her own. Surprise! And then they need teamwork. Yeah. And that's how she grows.
There was a really fun episode of that, actually, in the anime. They had a particular angel that was showing up that every time they managed to, they would get in and immediately just, slice it in half, and then the two halves would grow into two fully functional angels and kick their asses. And so neither of them could decide, who would get to attack or what, and they kept arguing every time they got into a fight with each other. And so Misato, she actually forced them for several weeks until the next attack to practice a synchronized dance routine, which ended up being how they defeated the angel.
That sounds about as weird as this anime, so that makes a lot of sense. But yeah, so, she develops teamwork and stuff, and she but by like, I don't know, maybe like 45 minutes in or so, she's not as much of a hard ass.
No.
So she does like lighten up a little bit. She still insists that Shinji calls her captain though, which, you know, she's kind of a dick. So
She is, just a little bit.
stuff happens with her later on, but you know, Shinji is still having his like crisis of purpose, where he's not sure what he wants to do, or like not sure if he wants to keep fighting, and he hates how you know, he has like one good moment with his father at the beginning. They're visiting his mother's gravesite. Was that in the anime?
There were several moments of that variety. It was basically a constant, like, one step forward, two steps back with his dad, constantly trying to get the praise and affection that was perpetually absent from him.
Yeah, so, and Rei at one point, like, she's having dinner with Akari, right? So, she's having dinner with Akari, and she's asking him all these questions, and is like, you know, do you like eating? Do you like eating with other people? Do you want to eat, you know, like, have dinner with your son? And he's like, oh, I don't have time for that. And Rei basically convinces him, and she's gonna, like, make a meal for them and everything, so everybody gets along.
Yeah. This was really interesting because they started to do some really strong character development stuff with Rei that they'd never really done before in the anime. She remained more or less a blank slate throughout the series, with the exception of a few moments of kind of body horror going back to her origin story. You know, as part of the changes that started to happen in the first movie, she starts to develop a personality, and she starts to develop agency, and desires, and wants, and preferences, and a lot of it comes down to that she's starting to develop an affection for Shinji that rivals the affection that has been programmed into her by Gendo.
Yeah, so why don't we talk about who Rei is? Because it's not really revealed in this movie. However, I figured it out.
You had to ask us for confirmation.
But, well, I was pretty damn sure. So anyway, so in order to prepare for this to get context, I listened to last year's episode.
Okay.
You know, where I talked about the first one, and there's a specific moment in that episode where Jay says, "Oh, Nate hasn't figured out who Rei is yet." So I listened to this after I saw, you know, the second movie a few days ago, and I put two and two together and was like, Rei is a clone of Shinji's mother.
Yep. Gendo
what
is...
the fuck?
Gendo is straight up fucking a 13 or 16-year-old clone of his dead wife.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So there were a couple things that I was like, okay, she's clearly like not a, you know, natural human being, and she was like raised differently. Like she was raised, I think, to pilot these things.
Yes.
From the beginning. So.
Yes.
So like clearly she has not had a normal childhood, and so there's also this really weird moment where Shinji is inside the Eva, and he's like, his inner monologue is like, oh, he's like, I like being in here because I find it comforting because the smell reminds me of my mother. And he says something similar at one point about Rei.
About the way that she acts, that she would be a good mother.
I think it's actually something about how she smells. Yeah. So, yeah.
So the Evangelion is not... Eva Unit 1 is not a clone of his mother.
Okay.
Do you want the spoilers?
Yeah. I'm
Okay.
in deep. I'm gonna watch it anyways.
So at least as of my nearly 20-year-old knowledge of the anime, the Evas are imbued with the souls of their pilot's mothers.
Gotcha.
But since Rei doesn't have a mother, we don't know who the hell that is in Eva Unit 0, but whoever it is doesn't like her.
Gotcha. Okay. But yeah, so that's weird. Like, really fucking weird.
Yep. But that's that's part of the reason why they need kids to pilot them. They
Yeah.
need specific kids.
Yeah, it's... I don't know. When I you know, straight up asked the group chat, it was like, I need to know, and they're like, yep. I don't like that. It's not cool.
Gendo's awful.
Yeah. So he is he's a manipulative, terrible person. So speaking of which,
And his end game for humanity is all down to an incredibly selfish purpose.
What is it?
Oh, you'll get there.
Okay. So it seems like there's a bit of a jealous, like, love triangle between Rei and Shinji and Asuka. She seems like she doesn't like him. Asuka doesn't seem to like him, but she gets jealous when he shows Rei attention and stuff.
I think a lot of that is that, personally speaking, I think Asuka is... she's got to be at least to some degree histrionic. Everything always has to be about her, and when it's not about her, she tries to make it about her.
Yeah, definitely. So she ends up living with Masato and Genji. So, wow, Kenji, not Genji. Ha, that's a different character. Shinji. God damn.
You can do it. I believe in you.
Clearly, I have Overwatch on the brain now. Okay.
Asuka's a Genji main.
Yeah, I'm sure she is.
Actually, that would make complete and total sense.
Yeah, it would. It really would.
Badass, but doesn't really contribute to team composition.
Who do you think Rei mains?
Oh, God. Rei would be... I don't know. Who do you think?
I think Rei would probably main... Probably like Mercy.
I was going to say Shinji's a Mercy because he doesn't want to fight.
That is true. Yeah, Shinji's Mercy. I'm not sure. Write into the podcast and tell us who you think Rei would main in Overwatch.
Maybe Rei would play Winston because of that whole rage ability.
Oh yeah. So let's talk about some people raging out while they're piloting their Avas, because that happens.
Yeah, a few times.
They're trying to do an experiment. What is it? The Americans send their like super advanced Ava suit to the Japanese.
Yep.
And they have to put one of the units in storage because there's an international treaty where you can only have 3 Ava suits per country.
Well, I mean, they are really big super weapons.
Yeah. It also seems like they only attack Japan, though?
They do. They only attack Tokyo 3 specifically.
Because that's where Lilith is.
Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, so they do this experiment, and I'm not sure exactly what happens, but something happens, and Asuka's, she, like... sort of goes crazy and gets... I don't know if she, like, gets possessed by an angel?
Yeah, I do believe that's what happens. Yeah, this played out different in the original series, but the end game of it is that this is an angel whose specialty is getting into the minds of its opponents. And so she ends up, at the end of the fight, after everything's done and over with, she has to be hospitalized for potential mental contamination by the angel. But, I mean, the words that the not-so-sensitive trigger warning words that we used when originally going through this was she's basically mind-raped.
Yes.
It's really, really like... I remember this the first time that I watched it in the anime. It really hit me on a deep, visceral level.
Yeah, it's also really sad because it's like the first moment when she's like actually kind of happy.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh, I want to be on my own and stuff, but at the same time, I guess friends are okay." And then she gets possessed by a fucking angel. And then Shinji is forced to fight her. He refuses, of course, to fight her at first, and his father had installed a dummy system in his
dummy
Ava
plug.
That when they activate the dummy plug, the thing literally extends over Shinji and covers his hands, and is steering the Ava with him in it, and it makes him lose control of the Ava.
But it's still he does everything with his hands because it needs his input. It's just forcing his input.
That is why in this movie, Shinji's like, "Fuck you, I'm not doing this again."
Yep.
At first I thought that Asuka died. So, because what happens is Shinji's Ava takes out the the plug that has, the pilot in it and bites it in half.
Yeah.
And so I thought that Asuka died. I was like, holy shit. But then they show she's hospitalized and kept under quarantine.
Yeah.
But that was really surprising. What's even more surprising is later when he eventually, the last angel that they fight, what happens is Rey goes out there and basically gets absorbed, I guess, by this angel.
Mm-hmm.
This is the 10th angel, right?
Yeah, and this was completely off the rails for anything that was in the anime.
Okay.
This is where things really diverge.
Okay, that's interesting. So the 10th angel comes down, and what it does is it basically just absorbs Ava's and their pilots.
Mm-hmm.
And so the dummy plug isn't working, and so eventually they get Shinji to go out there and, save Rey because this thing, literally absorbs her. So Shinji gets to this point where he's like, fuck this, I'm not doing this for anybody but her, I'm gonna get her back. And he fights until his Ava has no power left. And then he sort of has this, roid rage moment, and he, somehow he gives the Ava power himself, and he stands up he should have no power left, but he stands up. Oh, and I should say that the angel did absorb another character who was helping him, who was
I think because Mari was piloting Asuka's Ava, wasn't she?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She gets absorbed and everything after helping Shinji. But so what Shinji does is basically all the people from Nerve are standing outside watching this happen, and they're like, holy shit, how is Shinji doing this? We're literally witnessing the birth of a new god, more or less.
Yeah.
And so he just reaches into the angel's the core and pulls Rey out, and she how they explode in blood and stuff.
Yeah.
So some of the blood from the core reforms into Rey, and he's holding her, and then it looks like there's a big explosion starting, and they're like, this is it, this is the end of the world, this is the third impact, which in the story 15 years earlier, the second impact had basically brought about the angels. Then that's the last thing before it cuts to the credits.
Yep, he starts developing wings like the creature that Misato saw as a child down in the Antarctic, and
then there's he has a halo almost. Yeah.
It's really cool.
Yeah, and then at the end of the credits, I watched because I wanted to see if there was anything else, and this giant spear from the heavens comes down and impales the Ava unit that Shinji and Rey are in. It impales them and freezes them in place, and some dude who was on the moon comes down.
Yep.
He was the guy who was at the very end of the first movie.
Yep, Kaoru. Yep.
Yeah, so he comes down and is like, Shinji, I promise you this time I'll show you happiness, or something like that. It's okay. And that's the end of it. It's well, shit. That got weird.
So what do you think?
It's really weird, but I still like the action and stuff, and I thought this one was overall better than the first one. So
I would agree with that too. It felt less episodic, and it definitely started to find some room to breathe within an original interpretation of all of the base elements of the original show.
I think it's really interesting that it diverges so much.
Yeah, it when I started to realize at the beginning of this movie that it was going to diverge so hard from the source material, I got really excited, because I still loved these characters, but I was very dissatisfied with the original ending to the series, and was really interested to see what else this director, this writer could do with his property. Now, if you're interested in seeing more, kind of fucked up giant monster stuff, this director, this writer, Hideaki Anno, he also did the most recent Japanese Godzilla movie.
Okay.
Which, instead of tackling the horror of nuclear war, tackles the horror of nuclear disaster in the face of impotent bureaucracy.
Interesting.
Yeah, Godzilla, rather than embodying the atomic bomb, he embodies the Fukushima disaster.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I don't know, kaiju are a really cool way for the Japanese to try and work out their cultural pathos. I really like that about the genre. So overall, you said your favorite character was Asuka, is that right?
Yeah.
You felt that there was a lot there to be kind of more sympathetic about?
Yeah, like she definitely she definitely grows on you.
They definitely did more to make her a more sympathetic character. So I can understand where you're coming from, like even if she drives me up the wall. My original group that I used to watch anime with when I was in high school, like we all did these shows together, and she was pretty much universally hated by everyone.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, almost universally. So, we'll see you again this time next year for the third one, right?
I think I'll watch it before next year.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'll probably watch it in a couple months.
Yeah, I need to... Actually, I've not watched the third one yet. I'd been waiting for it to come out for a long time and then just didn't get around to buying it when it finally did.
We can watch it together and then talk about it.
Yeah, we could do that. That would be fun.
You should shoot for that in a couple of months.
Yeah, we should try that out. So, Nate, thank you very much for subjecting yourself to this again. We're going to have to find a new anime to force on you next year.
Yeah, definitely.
I've got some ideas that I think would be interesting to get your opinion on.
Okay, like what?
One of my favorite shows, actually. It's a show called Full Metal Panic, and it is about a mercenary unit that is working on its own to kind of protect certain people with special abilities from terrorist organizations that would like to make use of those special abilities. And so in its efforts to protect one particular schoolgirl, they send one of their youngest operatives, who is a child soldier. He's been on the battlefield since he was a young boy.
Is this like Full Metal Alchemist?
No, actually, it predates Full Metal Alchemist. It takes place in our world with giant robots.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yep. And it's a little bit comedy, it's a little bit military sci-fi, it's a little bit romance, it's got a whole lot of different flavors going on with it, but like one of the biggest sources of comedy in it is that the main hero of the show, being somebody who has been fighting in bloody conflict since he was, pre-adolescent, he doesn't actually really know how to deal with other human beings, and now he's being forced to go to school with them undercover.
Oh, that's funny. Okay.
Yeah, it's really cool. I
can see the potential there.
I had a lot of fun with this show when I was younger, and it's still really, I don't know, maybe it's nostalgia, but I feel like it still holds up really well.
Well, sounds good to me.
All right. Well, Rocket Punch Radio is a giant robot podcast fighting force designed to fight the angels and their army of more angels. You can join the Rocket Punch Corps by reviewing us wherever you listen to podcasts and checking us out at rocketpunchradio.com or on the Grown Ass Geeks Facebook group. Our theme song was composed and recorded by Brent Black at www.brentblacktunes.com. This podcast was produced by Samantha, and our artwork was created by Jay Garcia. You can find us on Twitter at RocketPunchRDO, and also on YouTube, where we've been posting Let's Plays, game reviews, podcast episodes, unboxings, all kinds of fun stuff. Nate, where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter and PlayStation at Blade of Creation.
Excellent. And you can find me on Twitter at jpatrickauthor, and on the web at jpatrickallen.com, where you can find all sorts of information about the books that I have published and all of the projects that I'm working on. Sir, it has been very good to meet with you today to talk about this thing that I love very much.
And this thing that I like somewhat. It's definitely growing on me. So.
Well, have a good one, Nate.
All right, you too.